Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This time I yield 3 minutes to the gentlelady from Illinois, who's the chairman of the Financial Services Oversight Committee.
The gentlelady is recognized for 3 minutes.
I thank the gentleman for yielding. Mr. Speaker, I rise in opposition to this conference report and the bill. In the fall of 2008, our entire financial system and economy were on the verge of collapse. The $750 billion TARP program was hastily proposed. I, for one, would never have backed it were it not for taxpayers' protection, a promise that the taxpayer would be repaid. This bill flat out breaks that promise to taxpayers. It siphons away unspent money from the TARP program. Instead of returning it to taxpayers or paying down our $13 trillion debt as promised, it uses the money to pay for the new federal spending. And contrary to my colleague's rhetoric, this bill makes bailouts permanent. Look at Section 210N5 and Section 210N6. These provisions authorize bureaucrats to bail out the 6th largest, too-big-to-fail Wall Street firms to the tune of $8 trillion. What you have is taxpayers footing the bill to pay for failed Wall Street firms, and that's a bailout. My colleagues on the other side of the aisle claim that the bill requires that taxpayers be paid back. But how in heaven's name can taxpayers believe that this very bill that breaks the earlier promise that taxpayers would be paid back for TARP can believe what they say? This bill also fails to reform Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, the two mortgage giants at the center of the housing crisis. Taxpayers have bailed Fannie and Freddie out to the tune of $150 billion and billions more to come. But this bill doesn't reform them. It merely calls for a study and fails to include as part of our federal budget the trillions in liabilities taxpayers now face because the federal government owns and operates both Fannie and Freddie. Finally, let's not forget our hidden costs in this bill. Our Midwest manufacturers had nothing to do with the housing crisis or the financial meltdown. Yet this bill requires them to divert trillions of dollars of working capital to pay for financial transactions, which may stifle job growth and raise the cost of commodities for American families. What's the cost to small businesses? It's job growth. As taxpayers, small businesses, and consumers pick up the tab for new federal bureaucrats, 355 new rules, 47 studies, and 74 reports, according to the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. In the name of financial reform, we must not stifle job creation by saddling our small businesses and manufacturers with additional burdens. We need to get financial reform right so that innovators and entrepreneurs can secure credit, expand, and create desperately needed jobs. We need to get reform right, but this bill doesn't pass the test. I urge my colleagues to oppose this conference report and bill. Yield back.